The little inline screamer from Kawasaki that we've been waiting to see for years that is garnering a whole lot of hype. The Ninja ZX4R, up against the sleek new mid-range SuperSport from Yamaha that's become a favorite in the class, the YZF R7. If you want a track-oriented, modern and sleek little SuperSport that could also be a terrific all-rounder, it would be impossible to ignore these two titans of the motorcycling world. So today it's Team Green vs Blue going up against each other with their latest sporty offerings, and while they both have the same overall goal, be just as good on track as they are on regular roads, they do go about it in two very different ways. So we're going to dive into a detailed specs comparison so we can find out exactly which one comes out on top. G'day, I'm Kwackajack, and welcome back to another episode of the Versus series. This is where we take two similar bikes you might be looking to choose between and put them under the magnifying glass to really examine the differences to help you with your buying decisions. And today we have two of the most hyped new sport bikes on the market going head to head to analyze the styling, claimed engine and power specs, exhaust notes, weight, suspension and brakes, fuel economy, features and price to see where they stack up. Before we get into it though, make sure to give this video a like and hit subscribe if you're new so you stay up to date with the latest in motorcycle news. Alright, let's get straight into it and take a look at the styling of these two sexy machines. The newly announced Kawasaki Ninja ZX4R has been a long-awaited motorcycle, with rumours having been swirling around the depths of the internet for years. Well, Kawasaki finally listened to the cries of the Kawi fans, and we are expecting the new models to finally be released over the next few months. There will be three models of the bike: the regular, the SE, and the track-oriented RR. All feature the same slick, sporty styling that we see on the rest of the Ninja lineup, with the ZX4 being extremely reminiscent to the smaller ZX25. Only here, being around the same size as the Ninja 400. We've been seeing this same look for some time now, and to be honest, there isn't a whole lot differentiating it from a regular Ninja 400 or 650. Really, the only difference is the Ram air mount on the front. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, with it still being a great bike to look at, but definitely a safe choice. Also a thing to note, here in Australia, only the regular and RR versions are available, and if you want that banging KRT trim, you'll need to opt for that second one. The Yamaha R7 on the other hand is one of the newer offerings to the market from the Japanese bike maker, and they originally took some flack for including that name on this bike. And that's because the original R7 was very different, being a purebred SBK bike featuring an inline 3 with just over 100 horsepower. However, those criticisms have mostly dissipated these days, with the motorcycle having a loving little fan base. It has got a narrow, race-inspired SuperSport design that is somewhat similar to the older R6. I think overall it's a very attractive motorcycle and looks great, other than that singular front headlight in the middle, although it is definitely better seen in person than in photos. There is both a high and low output model of the Yami available too, with no visual differences between the models. Now this will be a personal preference as to which is the winner because both have got great designs, and really at the end of the day, I think for a lot of people it'll be down to whether you prefer green or blue. Myself, I like the ZX in green and the R7 in black, but let me know which one you think has the better overall styling. Now let's move on to the real meat and gravy of these two, the engines. Both are the types of bike you would see a lot of people progressing to as their second motorcycle, with a really ideal amount of power for both on-road and track. But they do go about creating it in very different ways. The newly announced ZX4R's motor is its party piece, featuring a 399cc 4-stroke inline 4-cylinder engine that will be an absolute screamer. With it revving all the way up to a redline of 16,000, Kawasaki claims that it'll produce 76 horsepower at 14,500 RPM and 37.6 Nm of torque at 12,500 with the Ram air mount engaged. It does seem, however, the European versions of the Ninja will create 2 or 3 more horsepower than the Aussie versions, with it going up to 79 horsepower. Now, having that level of power on tap on a bike that's able to rev so high and so quickly will mean that the engine here will be the highlight. Getting it to scream through the mountains will be an absolute blast, with the ideal amount of power to be used in the twisties. I cannot tell you how excited I am to start seeing these things around and hearing them zoom by. The Yamaha on the other hand is rocking a more traditional 689cc liquid-cooled CP2 inline twin-cylinder engine that has been migrated over from the naked MT-07. One thing to note here is that the high and low output models do actually feature different engine sizes, with the Lambs or beginner model having a smaller 655cc version. The main high output model will create 72 horsepower at 8,700 RPM and 67 Nm of torque at 6,500. And Yamaha claims to have made the rear sprocket one tooth shorter to allow gearing to be taller for the track. This is once again a great amount of power for both on-road and track, with it being a much more forgiving amount than what the older R6 had. It will also be the torquier of the two, having a lot more grunt lower down in the range to allow for more fun riding around town. As for who wins in this department, well, the Kawasaki does have more horsepower, but the Yamaha blows the ZX4 out of the water when it comes to torque, so it will be the punchier of the two lower down and give you more of a kick up the backside off the line. So if we're talking purely on paper, the Yamaha would win, with that gap in torque being so much greater than the smaller difference in horsepower. However, I think the Kawasaki gets the underdog People's Choice award here, because we don't have motorcycles to just look at the spec sheets. We have them to ride, and there is currently nobody else on the market right now offering what they are with this machine. A small 400cc screamer of an engine. And I think the top end rush of this thing will be so exhilarating and addictive that if it were my choice, I'd take that every time. Let's also have a listen to the stock exhausts of each. Okay, I don't normally do this either, but have a listen to what the new ZX could sound like with an aftermarket exhaust on it too. Oh my god. Alright, moving on, and we come to weight. This is a straight tie, with them both being neck and neck, with a wet weight of 188 kilograms ready to go on the road. With their small size and relatively low weight, it should mean that they are wicked fun on twisty roads. And that will also be thanks to suspension and brakes, so let's take a look at how they differ there. As mentioned, there are three variants of the Kawasaki, and the main difference between them is the suspension setup and adjustability that comes along with it. On the base ZX4R, at the front you are equipped with 37mm inverted forks with top-out springs, while at the rear is a horizontal backlink gas-charged shock with spring preload adjustability. If you decide to upgrade to the SE, you will get upgraded front shower suspension, while the range-topping ZX4R has got upgraded front and rear shower suspension, where you'll have adjustable preload, compression, and rebound damping. All of them will have the same 800mm seat height with forward-facing attack-like ergos to allow you to get into a tucked position. This machine should eat up the track, as that's really what the ZX line of bikes is designed for. However, I would have expected to see a little more adjustability on the base model. As for brakes, up front you're equipped with dual semi-floating 290mm discs with dual radial mount monoblock opposed 4-piston calipers, while at the back is a single 220mm disc with single piston caliper. It also features KRTC traction control and ABS at both ends to help you out. Over on the Yamaha, for its suspension, up front you have KYB 41mm upside down forks, which are preload, rebound, and compression adjustable, while at the back is a linked monoshock, which is preload and rebound adjustable. Yamaha claims themselves this is a track-focused supersport, and that shows with the ergonomic setup, having a taller seat height of 835mm and placing the rider further forward. Reviewers claim it to be a very fun and flickable bike to use on track, and the adjustability that comes along with it as standard is a big plus. There are no real rider aids here though, so you will be getting a much more raw experience that is not hindered or altered by electronic aids. Whether or not that's a good thing is up to you. In terms of brakes, at the front you are equipped with dual 298mm rotors with radial 4-piston calipers, along with Brembo radial master cylinder, and a 245mm rotor with Nissan caliper at the rear. The R7 is equipped with ABS as standard at both ends, and some people have actually complained that the lack of ability to turn it completely off while on track is a bit of a hindrance. difference. So who wins when it comes to suspension and brakes? Well, if adjustability is important to you, the Yamaha does offer more in this regard, with you having to upgrade to that range-topping RR version of the ZX to really get a similar level. Both should handle fantastically, and it's hard to really say which will be better until we really see the ZX hit the streets and we get a chance to see how it performs. For brakes, again, the Yamaha does have the larger units fitted to it, however, the Kawasaki does include traction control and does have adjustable riding and power modes. I think the Yamaha will have the slight edge overall for suspension and brakes, but really, both will be fantastic little track stars, and I'd expect a lot of people who do buy these for that reason to upgrade these parts anyway. Now, let's move on to fueling. We don't know how Kawasaki's new machine will perform yet in terms of fuel economy, but we can clearly see that it is equipped with a substantially larger 15-litre tank compared to the Yamaha's slender 12.8 litre. That will make a difference on the longer rides, and to be honest, I think anything under 14 litres on a motorcycle of this size is just too small. The ZX4R wins in this category. When we look at features, we see a similar story, with the Yamaha being a more bare bones machine compared to the Kawasaki. On the ZX4R, the notable features include assistant slipper clutch, eco riding indicator, KRTC traction control, ABS, RAM air mount, full LEDs, 4 riding and power modes, 4.3-inch color TFT display with smartphone connectivities and different displays, including a track setting. If you upgrade to the SE version, you get a few more goodies like the KRT trim, USB socket, smoked windshield, and that new front suspension. And finally, the RR version has the upgraded front and rear suspension, KRT trim, and also an up and down quick shifter. I think that's a fairly decent amount of goodies that you're getting here, and really you have everything you'd need on a smaller Supersport like this. However, it is a bit of a bummer that here in Australia at least, you can't get that mean green KRT trim unless you opt for the top spec model. The R7 on the other hand doesn't really have as much, with its features including fully adjustable suspension, ABS, assistant slipper clutch, LCD dash, full LEDs, and an optional quick shifter on the high output model. It's a pretty clear victory to the Ninja in this department, with it having more features like the riding and power modes, a better quality display than the Yamaha's, as well as traction control. So I suppose the next question we need to ask is, well, how much are we going to need to pay for it? Kawasaki has not currently confirmed pricing here in Australia, but my best predictions are that it's going to sit between the Ninja 650 and the ZX6R, considering that's its place in their lineup of machines. My best guess is that the regular model will be coming in at around 15,000 Australian, and the RR version will be around 1,000 more at 16 to 16.5. The prices for other regions that we do know about are shown on screen here now too. So that would put it right in line with the R7, which here in Australia has a right-away price of 15,649 from the dealership. So these aren't cheap motorcycles. You're paying a premium for the sportier setup. As for who wins, well, we'll find out very soon when Kawasaki finally comes to a definitive decision as to where they'll set their prices here in Australia. But in regions like the US, the Yamaha does seem to be the cheaper bike. So when we look over this comparison as a whole, what conclusion can we come to? Well, it looks like Yamaha will have the slightly cheaper motorcycle with more torque and more adjustability for its suspension, whereas the Kawasaki will have that absolute pearl of an engine, more features, and a bigger tank. The R7 does technically win more categories on paper and come out on top, if only slightly. But I'll be honest, I'd take the Kawasaki in a heartbeat. The screaming inline 4 motor will be its selling point, and if it were available here in Australia, I think the SE model would be the way to go. We've been waiting for a bike like this for a long time, and it's great to see that it's finally coming. But there you have it. Let me know down in the comments which one you would choose, and leave any suggestions for future matchups you'd like to see too. Thanks again for watching guys, and till next time, see ya!